Hello, guys. Welcome to the CPL podcast. I have Bajram, right? Is that correct? With me today or tonight?
Actually, actually, it's Bajram. That's the way you would pronounce it.
Okay, my bad. Bajram.
Yo, what's up, dude?
And welcome to the first episode of the CPL a podcast. I guess, like revisited. In this episode, we're going to talk about some sports stuff towards the end, but mostly how uh, modding and like running a Pokemon League affects us, and some draft league stuff. And
Yeah.
like I mentioned before, Byron, right? Is
Yep.
the you're the owner or like the co-owner of SGBL.
Yeah, co-owner with my brother Adam.
And so you want to get into how difficult it is into just like running a server with like eventually you guys you have like three draft leagues going on or like four. It's just crazy stuff, man. It's kind of it's really impressive.
Yeah, so we started up 3 months ago, slightly over 3 months ago now, and my brother and I have been in the community the last, I would say, almost 2 years, and from the middle of Gen 8 towards the end, and while Gen 8 was starting to close down, we were talking about wanting to possibly run our own server. So and part of it was the reasoning for it, right? One of the issues that we constantly saw in a lot of leagues that we did join were not updating their docs or, not doing a good job of, making, their individual leagues unique, whether it was in terms of good talent base or even playing pools and things of that nature. And just, not things running properly. So, like, I think I've been a part of I want to say like 5 to 6 leagues that did not even finish their seasons. So because of all that, I always wanted to do this, and my brother was like, let's see how it goes or whatever. So we decided to start up the SGBL, the Spiel Gibble Brothers League, or Battle League for if we wanted to be more official, but really it stood for Spiel Gibble Brothers League. And yeah, it's been a wild 3 months, pretty fun to
Yeah,
see us grow. Our first season we had three divisions of 16 players each, and we got that in like 5 days, which was kind of nuts because we thought we were gonna get applications for like 3 weeks or so and maybe run 1 to 2 divisions. But yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind that first week.
yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. Over here in the Corns Pokemon League, it took us like I want to say like 2, 3 months just to even get like 30, 40 people in here. And like most of them were like gym leaders and stuff like that, not like challengers. Like like after like what it's like 2.5 years now. Like almost like no new challengers come, and I'm gonna try to change that by like advertising more, hopefully.
Yep.
But it's been a fun thing just to like uh run like the server because I've been a mod here for like basically all the time except for a month.
Hmm.
So like 2 years of modding almost, well more than that. But yeah, it's just been super fun. Is the SGBL your first like modding slash like admin um experience, or have you been modding or like an admin in other leagues too?
I kind of wish I was a modder admin in other leagues. So funny story, right? So when in that first, so we were getting things set up a couple weeks beforehand, creating the initial doc, going over tiering, everything of the sort. Then we started to get this big wave of like applications and everything of the sort. So we did tell everyone, okay, we're gonna start. It was probably like on a Thursday. That was the goal. We are like, all right, let's give ourselves a couple of days to, get things going and ready to go and all of the things. But what ended up happening, because I am a Discord noob, um, I ended up leaking all of the divisions, and we had a lot of people know who made it, and also their draft positioning and everything of the sort, because I leaked all of our docs, just because I didn't realize I did not properly private those individual channels. So we ended up starting our season a day or two early, but yeah, it was kind of yeah, like I said, it was a whirlwind that first, but this first season we only did we just finished our first official season now, so that was it was kind of funny, but it was kind of worth it also because it led to a more chaotic, fun, first season of opening up and starting up, and we got super lucky. I'll be really honest with you. There was a lot of people who, they try running their leagues and everything, and they get quite a lot of drops throughout the season and everything of the sort. I don't think we had 5 drops within our 3 divisions, which, and they all happened relatively around the same time. And we just knew people, and it was kind of quick to replace them too. So we didn't really have any like bad periods during the season, and we see it all the time in leagues. And you probably, if you've been around and everything, that could be one of the hardest things to do during a season. So trying to
Yeah,
replace people at least. And yeah, so we were super fortunate and lucky with our first season, and now our off season starting up in a little bit, and we have 5 divisions with 80 total players now. So kind of crazy, but we're having fun with it.
yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. Like I was just like, I always lurk around. I'm not gonna lie with you. It's just really cool to see all the activity that you guys have in all the divisions. We've ran around, I want to say like 3 seasons of draft league maybe,
Yeah.
and like I feel like if I tell you that like 5 people haven't dropped out or they just stopped playing, like I think that would be like in every season that'd be like undershotting it a little bit. It's rough to find people committed for like a 3 to 4 month window and that
I
actually like know how to play, I guess, too.
Dude, I know all about it. I mean, I've been a part of it a lot over the last few years, and I've probably done way too many leagues, honestly, these past couple of years. That initial joining and wanting to do as much as possible. And this is a format that I'm most interested competitively. I'm not really into the ladder outside of playing random battles on the ladder, but that's just something I can do all on my phone and have fun with it. With this, it's kind of a format that I used to watch back in the day with the old GBA and everyone. And I've always wanted to do something like this. So Showdown is perfect. The servers are perfect where we could play it online. We don't have to generate teams or anything like that, and we could kind of get those games quick. But we try to, again, our activity, I think, is we're again very lucky because a lot of the initial people who did join, they were super active from the get-go for whatever reason. It's not like I asked them to be. They just decided to be. My apologies. I think that's on my end.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine.
One second. I'll just mute that. There's another draft going on, and they're doing their draft right now, and I have notifications on, so I think that's why it's beeping crazy. But yeah,
It's fine.
we try to, and again, I always wanted to run a league that was somewhat sports feel with, because that's a lot of what I enjoy, right? And to do the weekly recaps and try to do them consistently, and I was fortunately able to do it throughout the season consistently. And again, I was writing them up for 3 divisions and watching all these games, and there's definitely times where it was like, man, there are some days I did not want to write up a recap, or it's kind of difficult to write up a recap for a week. Especially, I remember there's one week we had one division that had like every game be a 3-0 or worse, and there was a lot of 6-0s in there, and really one-sided, like not overly fun games to watch. So, dude, I was trying to figure things out to write about those games sometimes, like a game of the week. There really wasn't one, but I try to make do, and I wrote up a bunch of these, and I try to be somewhat creative in my writing and try to change it up here and there. Again, there's only so many ways you could probably write. Oh, Palafin swept with Jet Punch with Choice Banded Jet Punch at the end, but I try to be creative with it and try to make it somewhat unique and fun for everyone. And we had a really good reception for it. So it was easy for me to continue doing because people did seem to like them. And even in our postseason, forums, we asked everyone to anonymously, rate the league, talk about what we can do better and all of the things. I think of the 48 players who played, approximately 30 actually did fill out the form, which was nice to give us a good idea. and we gave people the option in terms of the weekly recaps. What did they think of it? Did they like them? One option. Did they not like them as a second option? And were they indifferent to it? I think only two people put that they were indifferent to it, and everyone else said that they liked them and to continue doing them. So that was really, that was good to hear from my ego, honestly, because writing them up could take quite a bit of time. And in addition, to see people did like them a lot, and there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, they were asking for it," once the week ended, like, "Oh, when is it coming out?" And it's like it'll come out, within the next day. I always have done that throughout the season. So again,
Yeah,
it was super cool, and I think that's what kept people engaged. People started to know each other a little bit better, and it was a good way to mention someone's name, their team, and that was one of the early things we got. People talked about, "Oh, I never really cared about other teams in a league before, but this season, for whatever reason, in here, it's kind of nice that I not only know who these other players are, but I kind of care about how they do in their games." And again, part of that's the work on our end, my brother and I put in, and part of it is just just a good group of people who joined. Again, we got super lucky there. It's no. Again, that's I'm gonna say it repeatedly, but that's the truth of the matter. We got really, really lucky with the people we got this first season.
yeah. I mean, you can control a lot of things, right? But you can't control like the activity of people and like whatever around those lines. But yeah, I
Yeah.
fully understand. Like I feel you though with the. It's just so awesome to be like a creative person and see people like love what you're doing.
Hmm.
Like I told you in the DM before, I made something semi similar to that, like one of our seasons, and it
Yeah.
was awesome until I had to write like a full like 3 articles about like everything. But maybe if I had more time or like more like I guess desire to do it, it would have been like awesome, and maybe it would have kept more people around. So I think like the effort you put into the league and like into all the activities is
Hmm.
what keep people around. So of course, there's some leagues, not gonna mention names where like they don't do anything, they just like harass like their coaches or like try to beef with their coaches, but like they still have like good tournaments or whatever. So some of it is luck, but you can kind of control that luck in your favor.
Yeah, I think I think the people in our league might say I've been a little bit harassing, not in terms of like warning people with stuff and telling them not to do things or whatever. But we definitely have maybe pinged people a little bit too much. But again, we generally have pinged people for the different things that we have done. So again, it's generally when something happens, we'll let people know, or and if anything is available as an opportunity, like today, we pinged everyone in our league to join one of my friends' leagues, and they were just going to run one division, that 11 players, and I think they had like 10 or 11 people from our server go join there. And, only the first five were able to get a spot. But it's cool to see people were interested in, oh, I said, hey, my friend's running a league. Go take a look at it if you want to if you want to play this format. And a ton of people said it. Again, I only really pinged people because one, they needed it. Well, they didn't really ask for it. They posted it in as a partner. And because of that, I knew that okay, let's see if people are interested. People also did mention it that they wanted to play some more Nat decks, and even though maybe me personally I'm a little bit burnt out on the format, just in the moment, just from doing it a little bit too much right now, I knew there were a bunch of people who wanted to play, so I was like, this could be good to get a few more people in, and it's kind of crazy to see the quick reception that their league got, and they were able to get a bunch of people from our server to join, and yeah, that was super cool, and I was really happy since my friend got to. They pretty much filled out, and they had to tell people, "I'm sorry, we're filled." So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think in moderation, of course, like everything, pinging and like notifying people, it's a great tool. Just sometimes mods they can like go overboard, or like even like normal players, right? Can, when are we gonna schedule? When are we gonna schedule? Stuff like that. But and like even like the question of the day, like that you guys have is also pretty like engaging and stuff. It just like helps a lot to like keep retain people's attention, I guess. Because like, let's be honest here, like with the phones and stuff,
Yeah.
our attention spans just are like all really all the way down. It seems like, and like so like keeping like a fun question like the gym leader one I think was like really fun and super
Mhm.
like cool.
Yeah, and again, my brother has to take full credit for that. He's the one who thinks of it. I think the only times that I actually posted a question of the day was just because he was unable. He like had the question and he told it to me, and I just posted it for him because he was like out and about working. Again, for me, it's fortunate because I'm on my computer all day for work. So, and again, with my ability to do the work that I do, I'm able to be a little bit flexible and kind of get away with doing things. Um, but yeah, no, my brother deserves a lot of credit for that. He's just, hey, it's good to have a partner who we're both really close and we both get to do something like this that's just so much fun. And running it this season has been crazy, and we're excited to see the growth. But yeah, the question of days against a lot of it is just a combination of a good normal question that people could answer. Sometimes to give people a chance to be creative and spill their creative juices a little bit. And it's kind of cool to see what people come up with and how people go about it. So again, we're just trying to run a server that we think anyone would like. So that's really all it is.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure like even like the spectators could like find fun into like the server like they still have to they still get to interact and stuff, you know.
Exactly, and not a lot of servers. I don't know if we'll be able to do question of the days every single day. Eventually, it'll probably turn into question of the weeks. That's it's just how many questions can you really ask? But we try to have fun with it. Actually, in our first season in the application, we put at the end of it, oh, which Pokemon do you like better, Spiel or Gibble? What people didn't, we had no intentions of that. We were just doing that for our own little fun, trash
Like
talking.
ego boost.
Yeah, no, just for between my brother and I. It was just to be a joking thing. But because we're getting so many applicants, we're like, okay, we made a bet with each other. We said whoever wins, that's what we'll name our divisions after it. Their evolutionary line. Either it'll be Garchomp, Gabite, Gibble, or it'll be Walrein, Celio, and Sfeel. And of course, Sfeel
You
ended
know,
up winning. Yeah,
yeah.
Sfeel ended up winning that one pretty handily. I'll be honest.
Maybe with Garchomp you could have swayed more voters, man.
If it was Garchomp versus Walrein, I would have easily. But now we both of our PFPs are Gibbles and Spiels, so we try to do unique things. And again, I think we get even our docs. Like if you ever look at any of our docs, especially for our off seasons now, every one has something. A Gibble and Spiel with a certain Pokemon interacting. Like our Ubers docs right now, it's Gibble and Spiel on riding Miraidon and Koraidon, and they're wearing shades. So it's like a nice little touch, and people get a good kick out of it, and they appreciate some of the effort that we put into things. Even our other divisions, our Insurgents League right now. We made a Gibble and Spiel, lose their pupils in shock looking at a Mew. Uh, you know, the Radical Red League, Mega Houndoom's on the cover of that, fan, mod. And we made them both ride on top of a Mega Houndoom. And it's just unique little pictures. I try to do a bunch of things to, make things a little bit unique. And then even with the championship, we, posted the Giblins feel in a suit, handing out a trophy. So try to make it somewhat unique to our league. We try to do things a little bit unique and make our characters that we are, be a part of everything that we do. So again, it's just things we think of. We're not going to hit on everything. A bunch of things will probably be, not everyone will think as positively of it, but we attempt enough things and we put good effort into things. People generally do appreciate that, and it's been good. It's been a really good positive outlook on things, and people have been happy so far.
Yeah, it's just like I also was gonna ask about that. Like, who makes the art? Like, you guys commission it, or like, do you guys make it
I go on
yourselves? Or
Fiverr, the website. It's again, I'm not trying to drop a lot of money on this. I, fortunately do all right for myself financially, but again, I don't really want to drop too much on it. And there's people who are able to do it for relatively cheap, and and I try to think of things that are kind of creative and fun for people to enjoy. So Uh,
Yeah, like that's pretty awesome then, man.
yeah, it's
So
kind of
I
cool.
guess getting rid of like the modding and like running a league. What's your favorite draft format?
I mean, my favorite, like, I mean, I like
Like
Nat
right
Deck.
now.
I like
Like
Nat
right
Deck's.
now.
Yeah, right now Nat Deck's Legacy. Look, or Nat Deck's on some kind. I really did not like any Paldea Decks formats. Like regular Paldea decks and even post home Paldea decks seems to have like no steel types, no defoggers, and it's hard to get a removal. So it's like it's somewhat limiting in draft when you need certain things to draft. And that's like super, super frustrating when you're trying to build a team, right? But National Dex at least gives you the most options, and I like options personally. I like versatility. I like the ability to do have as much open to me on the table as possible. So for that, it's kind of this is my favorite format to play. And again, originally we started playing it, I just wanted to play a format that had megas in it. Again, because they removed it from Gen 8. So I was like, man, I really wish I could play a draft format that had Mega Evolution in it still. And lo and behold, here we go. There's people running these leagues, and there's this like community that runs national Dex leagues. And I was like, oh, how perfect. And then my brother and I got involved, and we started doing these leagues. And yeah, and that's how I got into it. Outside of Nat Dex, which I think is the most standard format in draft, at least on the showdown servers side of things, Radical Red is probably my favorite. I've yet to win a Red championship. I've won other formats, but this is the one that has eluded me. But it's probably my favorite, like off meta format. Again, I enjoyed Radical Red the game a lot, and I really enjoy a lot of the changes that they did make. I know not a lot of people did, but for me personally, I think it was awesome, and I love the buffs they gave to a lot of mons, and it makes it unique. It makes the game have its own like flavor to it and everything. So I'm excited for our Radical Red season 2 startup. We had again, it was a good turnout of people who applied for it, which was a little bit shocking because I was really unsure of how it was going to be. So I'm excited to do another draft of Radical Red.
Yeah, Radical Red. It's like I'm in an Insurgents gimmick league right now, just like for fun. And
Yep.
it's Insurgents. I think is pretty cool. I like all the deltas specifically. Like
Yeah.
I drafted like seven deltas like by accident though, because
Hmm.
randomized drafting or whatever.
Funny.
But yeah, I mean like,
Mhm. I'm sorry.
and then like Radical Red. I mean I've seen you probably know, right? But it's uh Callum, Hoodlum,
Yep.
Callum. I think his name is not,
Hmm.
ex Crafty. And like, yeah, it's just so super awesome to see like the Sevian forms and like all the buffs like they give to like random Pokemon like Love Disc, for example, gets Fairy type and like Soul Heart. It's just
Yeah.
like pretty wacky and cool stuff.
Yeah, like there's a mon like Cast Form, which is normally a really horrible mon to use. And Radical Red, they gave it a slight buff to its stats where it's 85s across the board. But the other thing that they gave it was whatever weather rock it held excuse me, outside of the sand, whatever, I forgot what this rock, what smooth rock
The
is.
Sandy Rock,
Yeah, outside of
I think
for
it's
the
Sandy Rock.
transport, outside of that, because it doesn't have that form, it actually just automatically starts off in that form, and then you have that weather for 8 turns. So you could do some creative things on your team, and because of the stat buff, it has decent support moves like Thunderwave and stuff like that. And Weather Ball is still really, really strong on it. Like even off of 85 base special attack, it's still like it's a high base power move that gets a buff in most of the weathers outside of hail or snow. And yeah, it's like one of those really underrated gems in Rad Red, and it's killed me so many times in previous drafts. So such an annoying mon to deal with, and it doesn't even make sense for it to be annoying. But yeah, again, I think it's a fun format. I've played drafts with it before, so I knew that people do want to play it. You just never know until you run it yourself if you'll get the applicants for it. So again, we were fortunate. We had quite a lot of people want to do it. But yeah, Insurgents, funny enough, because you talked about it, the one Insurgents league I was in the past, I did something similar to you. I drafted like only Insurgents exclusive mons, So like a bunch, like just a bunch of deltas, and then a couple non, just to fill out the draft because there was like none left. And so like regular mons I added at the very end, but it was just a bunch of deltas, and I was so excited for the draft. I was really interested. I was enjoying it a lot. And then 4 weeks in, the league just essentially shut down. So it was just like, all right, that kind of ruined that experience. And again, I thought about doing insurgents this season in our league, but we had a lot of people apply for that. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it to everyone else who wants to do it, and maybe in the future I'll do insurgents. But yeah, that's another. I'm excited to do draft of that. That format looks super super fun, and it gives you way more options. So it should be really cool to see how this season goes for our league.
Yeah, like in the league I have Mega Delta Bisharp, and it's
That
just crazy.
that thing is such
Like
a monster.
it's one force ability, I think, the one that makes it immune to flying type move. It's kind of
Yeah,
busted, man. I almost got swept by a Flamigo, and it saved me so hard, man. But I think yeah, it had nothing else to hit me with, just like Brave Birds. The close combat didn't kill because it's semi bulky, high defense by Bisharp. Man. But also I guess I forgot to tell you, but congrats on winning the GPBA, man.
oh yeah, that was pretty cool to win. I was again, I was in that league for a couple of seasons. I actually the season before, I think I took over for someone else like early in the season. Finished off pretty good and lost the playoff game early on. But this season, I was I was I did all right during the regular season. Ended on a pretty good winning streak for the most part. Um, got into the playoffs, and I'll be honest, I was kind of fortunate with some of the matchups I did get. I felt really good about like the championship game matchup. I felt like I built like a crazy good team for it, and I brought some really fire tech there, which was really cool. Like Tapu Fini trapping and Whirlpool taunt, killing Alamamola, which really hurt my team like crazy. And it wouldn't pivot it out because of taunts and everything. So that was like once I killed that thing, I was like, I think I just won the championship, but I still had to kill a few more mons. But that was definitely a cool title to win, especially because I brought a pretty fun team there. Although I did draft one of the most cancerous teams with triple regen and Shedtail and Mega Arrow Spectrier in the bag. So with Glow King of all things as like one of my regen mons, like way undervalued there. I think they had it like 12 points, and I was like, I'm taking this thing so early. It's not even funny. I was so shocked how low they rated it. I was like, this is like one of the best mons in the format. And you rated it at like 12 or 13. So yeah,
Yeah.
I had a very, very cancerous team. No one liked playing it for the most part, outside of my brother who destroyed me in both of our games. But if I played him in the championship, I don't think I would have won that game. I'll be really honest with you. It was just such a hard matchup for me. Like his team just was too like good against mine. But yeah, I was very very fortunate that I didn't have to see him there. Um, but yeah,
Speaking
other than that, it was yeah, I felt really good about my team. My team was really good. I had a really hard team to prep for, I feel, especially with all the regen mons and the power of Spectrier and Mega Arrow. I think Mega Arrow had like 20 something kills on the season. And there's games that didn't even like play because I was able to win and just beat people with regen. So yeah, kind of cancerous, but it was definitely a fun championship to win.
uh yeah, I remember seeing you like draft everything. I'm like, man, what is this? Like, this is like the most like complete team I've probably ever seen. Like, just like in that league in particular. And I think I mean I kind of stopped playing in that league. I mean like, I kind of retired for a bit, quote unquote retired, like for a year. Because just like their like tiers were like a little bit scuffed. I think like they had things a little like there were like 5 point mons like in the tens and like 18 point mons and like the 12 or 13 spots. I'm like, man, this is kind of crazy. Like and like in particular in my season. So you kind of have a fire type, like all the fire types are like 10 plus, basically. I'm like, man,
Mhm.
it's tough here. But I mean, like even like over or undervalued mons or overvalued mons. I mean, that's fine mostly. Just like sometimes, like you just need a break from like your hobbies or like the things you love to like get get the love back again. I guess
Yeah, no, I
that's pretty
feel
cool.
yep. Yeah, I would say the
Yeah,
doc for the most part. I thought their doc for the most part was pretty good.
yeah.
Again, just the glow, just like for me, it was like the glow king thing, like really popped out to me, and I was just like, I can't believe this thing is so low rated. It's this thing in like every other draft league is like around 16ish points, and there's an argument to even move it up a little bit from there now, especially because they got a pivotal move in chili reception, and you could do some like with regenerator especially. It's so hard to break as a mon. You don't even have to think with that mon a lot of the times. You could just run max defense assault vest. It has a pretty good natural special attack, and it's like so hard to break as a mon, and its def is already so naturally high and a good HP, and it's a bulky mon with regen. It just you don't even have to run slack off or any kind of recovery on it. It just recovers by switching out. It's like a real big cheat code at mon, and that was the one.
Yeah,
But outside of that, I thought most of the mons, at least this season, were tiered pretty
pretty
fine.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just the one that popped out so much. And I was like, I think I took that thing like second or third round. And I wasn't even going to. I had no intention. I was just looking through the dock and that thing was there, and I was like, I just have to. This thing's way too undervalued over here, so I didn't want to lose out on that. And that was one of the MVPs of my season.
Yeah, like I feel like the perfect draft league strategy is like going for mons that are like undervalued or like have a higher impact than they're like getting those steals like really early on.
Uh-huh.
Like people would judge me because I would get something like that was like 11 points in like the second round. I'm like, but I think this is like the steal of the draft, and I can get like higher tiered mons, higher point mons later
Uh-huh.
on that people won't get that will
Yeah.
fulfill the role I'm looking for. But
That and
because you,
yeah, that's part of the drafting experience, right? I always say this, like, if I was to rank like the best parts of the draft league experience, drafting to me is like number one. Number two is between building the team and nicknaming your mons. Because my brother and I, we have a thing where we don't use the same nicknames throughout the season. We'll nickname on a week to week basis a lot of the times. So if I'm playing someone and I know something about them, like in my semifinals game in GPBA, funny enough, the person was a big JoJo's fan, and I love JoJo's. And I'm not saying watch it. Like it's not for everyone. That is a very weird show. So if you like it, you're gonna like it right away. If you don't like it, you're just not gonna like it. It's weird. I can't. It just if you like it, you'll like it, right? I knew he was a
yeah,
JoJo fan though, right? So I nicknamed all my mons after JoJo's characters, in the show and the manga. So I was like, I'm gonna do that for this week in my playoff game. But I enjoyed those three things the most. And then the battle itself is like fourth for me, which is like that should be the most like exciting part, but it's really not. Like the fun parts of draft is the drafting itself, where you like get upset about getting sniped and you sniping someone and you getting hyped about it. Like that part is the most fun because I feel like that's where you get the most engagement with people and you get a lot of fun. Like a AAA draft I'm doing now. Um, Someone took Fuecoco at one point Mon, like just as a meme pick or whatever. And me and him just started talking crap with each other. And I said, if we play each other, I want to play for that Mon. If I win, you have to trade it to me. And if I win the championship, you get my championship. That's what we said. If he beats me and I win the championship, he gets my championship. And I said, absolutely. Like, no problem whatsoever. I want to play for that Mon because I wanted the meme pick of Fuecoco. So again, you get more fun year and fun you know conversations with people when you do that. And I thought that was again, you don't get that a lot of times during the season. Some people during the season they play their game and GG, maybe I'll send you the paste, maybe not. I may not even talk to you and it's over with.
yeah.
So like I said, the drafting part is the most fun part for me in draft.
My personal favorite is like starting like fake beef, man. Like like in your head you make rivals or something. You're like,
Mhm.
man, like he's a good battler. I'll make him my quote unquote rival. I'm just like try
Yeah.
hard. Like I'll be like. 2 or 3 hours more in like calcs and like I'm gonna make the perfect EB spread to like dominate him or her.
Yeah.
And of course drafting is really fun and like the prep work is really fun. But
The prep
because
work
you're
is
talking,
Yeah, the prep work though. The problem I have with prep work, I this is why I put nicknames above prep work because nicknames I think are just fun and there's no downside to it. The prep side of draft is the hardest part, right? And that's what makes it
yeah,
like enjoyable. But at the same time, if you are not into that prep and you're playing in like a competitive league or whatever, it is, and you're not into it, it can be very, very difficult to prep and calc and go through a bunch of, because I don't really do like mock battles or anything like that. My brother and I used to do them a lot, and then we got sick of counter teaming our counter teams to each other. So we were just like, we're not mocking with each other anymore. But even in general, like I don't really mock that much, and so I'll sit down and actually do all my calcs and figure out just for what things can come and what's a prep for and everything, and then figure out what my weaknesses are on the team that I did ultimately build. And but calking and prepping for a game, if you're not into it, it's very hard to get into it in any moment. You have to like almost be excited for it and be into it. And especially if you're struggling in a season, that's like almost impossible to do. It is so hard to calc if you start off 1-3 or 2-4, and it's like, well, do I really want to put in this effort? And I don't know if I do. And calcing is like it's again, when you're into it though, it's like the most fun. I like one of the things with this Nat deck season, I had a lot of fun calcing throughout the season. I didn't draft like an overly great team. I drafted a team that was essentially 7 mons can come, the other three almost never come. But I was having so much fun putting like perfect TV spreads for every single week. And I thought I had like even though I got destroyed in the first round, but outside of like my playoff game, I thought I had like one of my best seasons in draft because of how well I played, what the competition I was playing against. Like I lost one game 1-0, I lost another game 2-0, and then I lost a game week 8, but I was memeing that week, so that doesn't really like count. I was brought like belly drum slow bro and stuff like that. But and like yeah, I bought a lot of like meme sets that ultimately didn't work because my opponent had to win. So they ended up bringing like a setup Baxcalibur, which destroyed my whole team. And yeah, but outside of that, I thought like I had like one of my best seasons ever in draft, and I lost in the first round. But I thought just the way I played and the way I prepped every week, I was like, this is like one of the best I've ever played. And now because I finished that season and the way it ended, I'm just like, I am a little bit burnt right now on that right traditional Nat deck. So these off seasons should be a bit
yeah.
of a part for us.
But because you're talking so much about Glow King and I feel like Glow King is just like my like the epitome of like the mon that always like destroys me. I don't know, maybe I'm bad builders.
Yeah,
Maybe Glow King just destroys everything, in general. But is there like any
pretty much.
mons personally that you just like hate going against? Like it could be like from any gen or like 'cause it doesn't have to
So
be from like Gen 8 or something, but just like any mon that you just like despise.
all right. So actually, this gen. So I drafted Baxcalibur in my first draft in Gen 9, and it was amazing for me. Right, I enjoyed using it and everything, and it's like one of my favorite mons ever to use. But I have been getting swept by that thing. I feel like in every other league that someone else has it. If you have Baxcalibur against me, I might as well just say GG and shake your hand. Like that mon has given me so much problems. Like it's unbelievable. That's probably been the one mon that I enjoy using it though, so it's hard for me to hate on the mon. But I've only used it in one season. I'm trying to think of like other mons that have given me like problems. I know again, you play against Mons a lot and you eventually kind of figure things out. And depending on your team, you could kind of build accordingly. Like I've used Mega Scissor a couple times. That thing's always also given me a lot of problems. I don't care about drafted fire types ever. So Mega Scissor is generally like good against me. Um so that's probably been a mon that has I've struggled against quite a bit. So when I won my first championship, I played against a team who used the Mega Scissor. And the way I was able to kill it was just reading it, switching in on Ambipom, and I used Fire Punch on it. And I was like, thank God this thing is dead, because if I didn't kill it there, I was not winning that game. So that's a mon that I have. That's probably my worst win percentage against any mon is Mega Scizor. Like every other mon, I've played enough where I've won enough times where I feel comfortable with my like how I prep against them. And the teams I draft generally have done good against most mons, but Baxcalibur, Mega Scizor, those are like two worst win percentages right now.
Oh, and because you mentioned Sister and Mega Sister in particular,
Mhm.
and and Mega Sister always seems to be a part of like a Volt Switch core. How do you feel about Volt Switch? And like in general, it can even in like ladders slash random bats or in draft. Like, do you like that type of style of play or going against it or? Because
I,
I personally kind of don't despise it because I think it's kind of easy to work around. I just think personally, no shots taken to anybody, but I think it's kind of like skillless a little bit sometimes. You just like press U turn, press Volt Switch, and
yeah,
easy
um,
game.
yeah. So I would say, I, again, it's part of the prep, right? I'm very indifferent to it, honestly. I don't think really negatively or positively one way or the other. Again, if I have it, I'll use it. So I don't really feel any different about it. I know some people that I've played against, they'll draft teams with like 7, 8 pivoters, and it's like, God, this is going to be really tricky to play against. And sometimes it's you just have to do the prep right and bring a good team. But yeah, I'm very indifferent to it. I think it's a part of the game, right? And we all look for ways to get pivot and stuff. Like I ran baton pass as a pivoting move on Mons. Like, you using any way possible to get any advantage possible, right? It's you have to use what's available to you, and I mean those things. That's what they're available to those Mons, so you should use them. It's there. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I use it all. I use it whenever I could. So I'd be a hypocrite if I said otherwise.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I guess like this goes back to some like league stuff that kind of burned me out a little bit too much. It's like some leagues would allow you turn and voltage, because of course, like when you ban, it's not really bannable, I think, right? Because they're part of the game. You have to have pivot moves, but like they would ban like dry pass. I'm like, man, what are you guys doing? Like, I'm like, it's kind of crazy that you can't run a worse version of these moves, like flip turn, volt switch, U turn in particular. Now your immunities, and like you guys would just ban like baton pass because it's like a quote unquote like complex ban. But each league to their own. Like you have the power to choose rules and stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm sure
so
like
like with that I mean I think that's like a good like note to bring, right? Because like one of the things that we did with our Nat deck season, we try to like it's hard to tier your list perfectly. It's hard to allow the perfect moves and what moves to ban and everything. So it's those things are tricky, right? With baton pass, we just allowed dry passing because we're like, okay, that there's nothing wrong with that. It's a pivoting move. And ultimately, the mons who use it now, I've started to see more like Latios and Mega Diancie start to use this move, which is kind of unique. Um, but in terms of like other mons, they're generally like slower mons, like the evolutions, like Umbreon and Vaporeon generally wants flip turn, but like even like a Sylveon where I've seen it and everything, and those mons are generally slower. So if you do hit them, realizing that they have that move, they're going to be much weaker when they come back. They'll be weaker when they come back in. So you could take advantage of that extra chip that you gave to them because they use that move. Generally, slower mons are the ones that want to, click that baton pass button and, try to get the initiative. But again, we try to, again, it's hard to decide what rules to allow, what moves to allow, not allow. Again, we banned Hidden Power and Pursue. Part of the reason I banned Pursue it because the only reason it's like removed from the actual cartridge game is just because of all the bugs and stuff that happen with the move that mess up the actual game where things get buggy and everything. But in like Showdown, it's not never gonna break. I banned it because I was just like, I don't like that. I just didn't like how your psychic or ghost types. They literally have to constantly watch out for a random pursuit or anything like that. Some people say, oh, it's more competitive because you have to think about it or whatever. I'd rather let those mons have the best opportunity to succeed. Now, does that make ghost types much better? Absolutely. But I also like ghost types way more. So that was the balance. And then hidden power. I never liked the move hidden power. I've always thought that move was wildly uncompetitive just because, and especially in draft, where you could just tech it on any random thing and all of a sudden it's, oh, I have a 4 times super effective move against you and I get 2-shot you now when I have no business
Yeah.
ever countering or checking you at all. I think Terra in general is like the perfect like counteractive to that. It's if you want to use this type of move that you don't naturally have, that's perfectly fine. But you have to now commit fully to transforming into that type and everything. So so I like Terra quite a bit. And the hard part is what's the right Terra rules to run? That's another conversation to have. But hidden power to me is just like, okay, you could have hidden power on a bunch of mons on your team and randomly, you're seeing things like back in the day, like Ferrothorns would randomly tech a hidden power fire to counteract other Ferrothorns randomly here and there. And it's just like they have no business ever countering each other, and
Yeah.
so you just have these like really weird things that end up happening where I'm like, I don't like that move at all. I think it's wildly uncompetitive. And then we ended up banning a move like Last Respects. Again, it's just a move that if some team doesn't have a normal type, they're almost forced to bring it. And again, it makes certain mons board just Ubers like the Basque Legion line. And then actually with Last Respects, the most broken one actually might be little White Stripe Basculin because that thing could run adaptability with Terra Ghost, and that thing has 98 speed with like over 90 attack. There's literally nothing. Once a Terra Ghosts, it has adaptability on that move, and it is so broken. In an Ubers League I was in, they had that thing at like 3 points. And then when I realized that was their Terra captain, I was like, oh, I just auto lose to this thing if it comes. I didn't have anything. I needed my one normal type. I needed that to Terra to counter something else, and that was it. It was game once that happened. So again, that was like one of those other moves that were like, no, for regular Nat Dex play, it's a little bit too overpowered as a move. And you don't even need all your other team members dead. Like, that thing, if it had like 3 members on my team dead, I couldn't do anything to it. So yeah, it's like a crazy. There's just those are the things, right? You need to find that right balance, and we try to create a league that's the most competitively viable and the most fun at the same time. Because ultimately, we're trying to have fun while playing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Um, for you, I guess this would be the last draft league question until we get into like more of the like last segment, like fun like
Sure.
non-Pokemon thing. Uh, to you, what has been aside from the season you mentioned before, where you thought like you built really well and like you lost in the first round. What was your second favorite season of draft in your opinion? Like, and what league was it in as well?
That's kind of difficult, actually. So I've been fortunate. I've won a few draft league championships. I think I don't know if I have a second favorite season. Actually, no. There's another season I lost in the first round, but it was mostly because it was a season where my brother and I were in the same league together. We played against each other. We played each other in the regular season. It was a really, really close match. I ended up losing. He brought a better counter team and he won. We played in the playoffs again, and that was like the best playoff game that we've ever had against each other, where it ultimately came down to like his Mega Glade was just bulky enough to live a hit from a Mega Lopunny that I had, and he just won the game within the last turn. It was a 1-0 win, and his Mega Glade was like at 6% or something, and he ended up just straight up winning the game right then, like at the very, very end. And we said that was the best game we've ever played against each other. And even though I lost that game, I was really like happy with that season, and that game was almost like that felt really good. So if I was going to lose to anyone, I'd rather lose to him than anyone else. As much as we're rivals and we hate losing to each other, there's something like really cool about that moment where it was just like, yeah, he got me in that game, and Although I think overall in draft league we're like 500 against each other. That was like one of those seasons that was really really special because it was like that was the most fun playoff game I ever had in my life. That was that ended up in a loss, but it was super fun. The only other season I could think of that was like kind of funny was I did a AAA draft before this one. The last time I did it in the beginning of the season, I said I guarantee I'm winning the championship. I start the season off 2-2, and I decided, you know what, let me actually prep for AAA from here on out. I made a bunch of transactions, came back, I beat I got into the playoffs. I beat the two people who beat me, one in the semis, one in the championship game. And it was like a funny moment. And we had the pin tweet came back, and they pinned the tweet and everything, saying that I was guaranteeing my win. So that was like a fun moment and everything. But the second favorite season, I don't know. It's hard to say. I've won a decent amount, but some of those seasons weren't like GPBA was cool to win. Would I consider one of my favorite seasons? Probably not. Again, there were seasons that were more fun and better. Again, I think there's like other seasons that are just more enjoyable for like the moments, and the moments make it, right. Like GPBA, the season ended. I talked to my opponent a little bit, and there was like nothing afterwards. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't think the league owners even literally like said anything. I think I got like one congratulations from one of the persons, and no one else really said anything. There's like not anyone talking about the game afterwards or anything. So it was just like, oh, that just happened and ended. Where in other draft leagues, where I've lost in the championship or I lost a game, there was like a whole bunch of people talking about the game, and that's like way more fun. That's like so
Yeah.
much more fun than, oh, you won a championship and literally nobody cares. Where it's like, all right, that was like unique in its own way, but not in a fun way. So yeah, for sure. That was definitely there's definitely more fun seasons.
Yeah, that's yeah, the storylines make or break seasons, or like you remember them better or whatever.
Yeah,
And yeah, like no storylines equals like no fun or no interest really in the season at large. Like later on when you're like in retrospect, looking at back at it.
mhm,
So I guess I would conclude the draft league section and
yep.
more into more for fun slash personal like little snippets. What made you become a Denver Bronco fan, man?
This
Are you
is
from
so
the
funny.
area?
No, I grew up in New York. I'm a New Yorker through and through. When I started watching football, the people in my neighborhood, I was the young kid in my neighborhood at the time, and they were all Broncos fans. I think they were fans of John Elway and that Terrell Davis team and everything in the late '90s. I didn't watch them growing up because I didn't watch football at that point. Once I started playing with them and everything. Um, they were all Bronco fans, so for me to fit in, I was like, "Oh, I want to be a Bronco fan." And they had some playoff teams at that point, in the early mid 2000s, and Champ Bailey was my first like favorite player ever. Um, and that was like he was such a joy to watch as a cornerback, and he locked receivers up, and he caught a lot of picks, and he was such an unbelievable player that it was very easy for me to root for them. I just continued staying with them for no reason really, other than that was the team I started with. And yeah, there's a lot. I mean, outside of the last like 6 years, there's been a lot of good seasons since I've been a fan. Won a Super Bowl. There was a Super Bowl that got canceled against the Seahawks. I don't know what happened there. And yeah, and there was all those other moments, but there's a lot of cool moments like Peyton Manning that season. He's my favorite quarterback ever. That was uh yeah. So there's so many like fun seasons and good teams. Even the Tim Tebow season, that was a fun season to be a fan, and it was just it's really really enjoyable. Honestly, it was a lot of enjoyable moments. Last year went to a game in Denver. Um, they lost to the Chiefs in a close game, but that was like one of the most fun sporting experiences I've ever been to. They did such a cool job in the stadium while we were there. Um, that it was just really fun and it was really enjoyable. I was very grateful for that, to go and do that. And also Colorado is really beautiful nature life. So that was like a double bonus that I got to go hiking quite a bit and do that.
The high elevation didn't affect you, man.
Oh, dude, and I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado. When they talk about the Mile High City, you could literally feel the difference over there. The
Yeah.
air is actually thinner, and I didn't have problems breathing, but some of the people I were with, they like struggled at times when we were hiking. And even when I was driving in my car, I put my hand out the window and I was like, oh man, this air is actually so thin. It's just like going right through the air. There's not that like harsh like push like being in New York where you almost feel your hand going back. Like I was driving 50, 60, 70 miles an hour and my hand was going right through the air. And it was just like, whoa, the air is really thinner up here.
Yeah. I don't know if you're a big basketball guy. I think you mentioned you do watch basketball a little bit, right? As
I
well?
like basketball is one of my favorite
A little
sports.
bit.
It's a sport
Yeah,
I
there
play
you
more.
go.
I play men's league games and everything. Like I play it quite consistently, and I still watch it quite
Uh
a bit. I'm just a
yeah,
little bit more casual.
like the NBA finals are going on right now, and even like of course athletes that are like, train and like have like the perfect bodies almost. Like
Yeah,
even they get affected. Like players that normally play like 45, 46 minutes, play like 42 minutes. Even though it's like a little bit, it's still a lot, man, you know? Like those
it's
4 minutes of like it's just like we would probably be dead out there for like 4 NBA minutes, we're being honest, man.
there's
Like
no
average shows.
like one of my favorite things. So like I started to lose a little bit of interest in the NBA for a couple seasons. There was for one reason or another. I just the game. It felt like it was just not as enjoyable to watch. Again, Kobe's my
The super
favorite
teams.
player. Yeah, Kobe's my favorite player ever, but so like towards the last few years of his career, he was injured a lot, and he wasn't his old self and everything, and just in life in general, like I just didn't have as much of an interest in the games themselves. But watching the NBA this season, and I would say like last season, I really love the way the game is right now. I think it's so
Yeah.
fast paced, teams really are moving up and down the court like constantly. It's got borderline rec league feel to it, where every made shot or miss, they're just pushing and trying to get every good shot as quickly as possible. Guys are the most talented they've ever been in the league. It's crazy when you're seeing some of these dudes who are considered top 20 or 25 players in the league currently, and they can just give you the work. And there's just like role players nowadays that they can handle the ball and they're so talented with the ball in their hands that it's really hard to justify a team from like back in the day being nearly as good as the team nowadays because teams nowadays are just so much more skilled and athletic, and as a whole they're like way longer and bigger and stronger on like the perimeter and everything, where it's like, man, these dudes would run through teams from back in the day. Like they just play at way too fast of a pace, and they're just so skilled all over. And every team could shoot the ball now. We're back. Like I remember the Lakers. Derek Fisher was like the Lakers' best shooter, and this guy Derek Fisher was like a mid to high 30% 3-point shooter. Nowadays, teams are like averaging high 30s in percentage and low 40s. That's not maybe not low 40s, but like high 30s in percentage shooting from three. And they shoot it
Yeah,
way
like
more than they used to. And they're so much better at it. And back in the day, they used to miss a lot of open threes. That's why they didn't take them. Like, teams nowadays they're open, they're hitting it at a really high clip. But then you're seeing a lot of the skilled big men back in the league, like Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, and Giannis is his own like unicorn style of doing things, and it makes it way more fun when you have a lot of varying skill sets of guys, as opposed to it just drive and kick to the corner, which is kind of what the league was turning into for a little bit. Now we're starting to see way more guys, use the full court as a part of their game. I think the NBA right now is in a really good spot.
yeah, that's why I wish like time machines were real. 'Cause I want to just grab like a 1950s Atlanta Hawks team and just put them up against the current day Nuggets just to see how bad it would be
Dude,
if it's not like 300 to 20. Like that's an understatement, I think,
imagine what
nowadays.
college basketball team right now would smoke a team from the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
just if you're again, if I'd say this to like even like old heads as we call it in New York, you know.
Yeah.
You guys have like a nostalgia for like people back in the day. I used to like watch like especially when I was in high school and everything. I would go back and watch games from back in the day, and even now sometimes I'll watch a game from like even the 90s or the 80s. There's guys who can't dribble with their left hand. And like especially and if you go even further
Jalen
back,
Brown? No,
there's
I'm just
guys who literally couldn't dribble with their left hand. If they wanted to go left, they dribbled to their right and turned their body to try to go to the left
yeah.
side of the floor. Again, I'm not saying if they didn't grow up nowadays, they wouldn't be good. Like
Yeah.
they wouldn't have all the training that people have nowadays and everything. And they deserve their kudos for helping build the league up to what it is.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
when you watch, just if you watch the game, I'm like, guys, how do you compare the two? It's just such a different skill. It's unbelievable. And even like if you go to like 90s or even 2000s basketball, there weren't that many players in the league from the perimeter who could do what a lot of the guys do now. Like nowadays, you really have to cover all five positions. And if any team doesn't have a guy who could shoot and space the floor or do something with the ball in their hands, they become a complete liability. But that's just how much more talented the league is currently, where you can't waste that many possessions like you could back in the day, where there was a lot of 85, 84 games in the 70s. You know, teams, if they cracked 100, that was a good scoring game for them. You know, it's nowadays teams are, I think the NBA right now, I think teams average like around that 110 point mark. But it makes sense.
Yeah.
They're moving the ball. They're averaging 110 at efficiency. Unlike if you go to like the 70s or 60s, which was played at an even faster pace, but they were doing it with significantly less efficiency. So
Yeah.
again, it's a very it's a it's a very like weird comparison. If you want to compare people from eras, I say just compare a guy for how they dominated their own era, and we probably shouldn't rank guys in their top 10 or whatever. I enjoy doing it too. I'm guilty of it, but most like realistically speaking, it's you really can't compare guys from different eras. Guys nowadays are just they have way more modern like advantages compared to a guy from back in the day. So it's a very different, you know, and just in all sports, it's really hard to compare. Very
Yeah,
different
because
style. Mhm.
because everyone is also like freak of natures almost too. Like
I,
I was watching hockey and like there's like the Vegas Knights, which are in the finals right
mhm.
now. Like they're like all 6'4", like marble, like basically like Greek gods. And like man, imagine like getting like somebody that's like even like 50 years ago or like 40 years ago against like this type of team. Like they would just like die in the ice, basically, man. It's crazy how good athletes are nowadays. And
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, dude, it's such a. I say I'm not really like into hockey like that. I really want to go to a hockey game though. People say it's the most fun sport to go to live. And
Yeah,
even
I hear
watching
that
on
too.
TV, it looks like a really fun game to watch on TV. My problem is from not watching it consistently, I lose track of like the puck consistently.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
you know, the camera will be on someone checking someone into the boards, and then the puck will be like all the way back and someone else is getting it. I'm like, okay, I did not have a clue. Meanwhile, my
I
friends
wish
who are
like
hockey fans, they're like, oh yeah, it was obviously there. It's like it's really easy to track, and I'm like, I did not, I did not track it.
yeah, I wish they like highlighted it or something in like the TV or something to make it easier.
They used to do that back
Uh
in the day, and it was very poorly received. So
man. Hey, don't a lot of people say like don't mess with tradition, so I understand that, I guess. But
I say make things better if possible, but yeah.
yeah. Uh but to go into what's your basketball top 10 like of all time?
I, don't-
I know not to compare eras, but like in your personal opinion.
I'm not gonna rank anyone. I'm not gonna rank them like 1 through 10. Uh, I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not really a fan of him. I think LeBron is the best player ever, but yeah, again, I'm again, but it's really like it just I think he's just playing in a much harder era and everything. That's all it is. But him, Jordan, you know, I think those two are top two. I think that's like most people would agree with. And then with no real ranking, um, Kobe, Magic, Kareem are in that. Tim Duncan, I think they're all like in that top 6 range. Um, This becomes difficult.
Yeah,
Larry Bird,
there's a lot of great
Larry
players.
Bird, yeah, Larry Bird is one of my favorite players to go back and watch, but it's like a little bit weird because he's like one of the best like passers ever, and he just was able to like, and his trash talking stories are some of my favorite things to listen to and everything. But I think he's definitely one of the top 10 players ever, and just in terms of like accomplishments and their performance in their era, I think those seven and probably Shaq. So that would be like the top eight to me. And Shaq is the biggest waste of like potential, which is crazy because the guy won 4 rings. But imagine he worked hard in this game.
Yeah,
I'm
imagine if he just shot like 65% in free throws or something. Like he would average so many more points, man.
Dude, it's not even as much about that, right? It's just more about like him taking care of his body and everything and doing all of those things. So
Yeah, for
I would say
sure.
like that's probably like the top eight, and or they're in the top eight, right? I think those guys have like the most consistent, best careers for like relative longevity compared to anyone else. Again, if you want to take like Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain, like how do you rank guys like that, right? Will Chamberlain
Yeah.
was bigger than guys in his era, and Bill Russell averaged 15 points per game. So it's like he has 11 rings, and maybe was the best defensive player ever, right? That's what people say. I obviously never watched
Yeah.
him. I don't. When I've seen games of like the 60s and 50s, it's like really hard to say, oh, that's what you look for. Yeah. So again, maybe those two would be in the top 10 if we were being, fair to the guys of that era. Um, Oh, and then Steph. I think Steph is definitely in the top 10. I think what he's done to the game of basketball um has helped progress it forward more than anything else because players started really working on their game from the perimeter and to develop a shot so it can open up all the stuff going inside. And also, like if you and the Warriors themselves, they're a team that's super fun to watch because of how they consistently move the ball. They're like a more fun version of the Spurs were, where they had like
Yeah.
really good shooters and really fun players. And the Spurs had Tony Parker who only like would drive in and do a teardrop floater, and Tim Duncan was boring. Manu was fun, but Manu also was coming off the bench. So it's like, so I think Steph would be in that top 10. And then if you want to put like a Wilt or or like a Bill Russell or someone, sure. I mean, what Wilt did it's really hard to fathom that a guy can average 50 no matter what. And he had another season with like four. I think he had like one or two more seasons with over 40 a game. And I think my favorite stat of his was the season he averaged 50. He averaged like 48.5 minutes per game. He averaged more minutes
Yeah.
than we were in a game. So it was like, those are like hysterical stats. And I'm definitely missing people. I'm trying to think. Like the 90s really did, outside of Jordan, like who from the 90s would you even like consider in the top 10, right? Like,
Hakeem.
Hakeem
Hakeem.
would be, okay.
First
Hakeem's the
the
one,
dream.
right? And that would be
Yeah.
really cool if Jordan didn't retire that first time and they could have played in the finals. Like that's like the one
But
finals matchup that I think would have been like really interesting to watch. So Hakeem would be the one
but
player, but they never played in the finals. But like the rest of
but
those players, I like Charles Barkley, the guy who likes 13-year-olds, John Stockton. Yeah,
Sean
again,
Kemp a little bit, Gary
like
Payton
Gary
too.
Payton, Sean Kemp. Like no one ever considers those guys top 20 or even maybe 30 at this point. Sean Kemp definitely not because I don't even think he's a real thing. In the 80s, you had Kareem, Magic, and Bird as like the consensus three out of the top 10 or 12 players ever. After that, kind of tricky. Oscar Robertson, he maybe
Yeah.
deserves more love as the first guy to average a triple double. And, being one of those guys who helped progress the game forward also in terms of the skill set. And he was he was way ahead of his time in terms of like being a talented player on the floor. And when you watch that, translate. But even like Dr. J, if you ever watch like him play, he had like really poor handles, which is like weird because he's like this super athletic freak, even compared to nowadays. But like you watch the actual game and his like handle was like really not there. Like the stuff they're criticizing Jaylen Brown about right now, Dr. J was not like much like better in a lot of ways. Just going back and watching those games. But yeah, I think that would probably be give or take top 10 to like 12. I think that's where we're at. The top 8 or 9,
Yeah.
if you add Steph to what I said before, I think that's like top 9. And then if you want to throw in, you know, Hakeem, Wilt, and Bill Russell somewhere there, sure. And then, from there then after that it's you could put so many guys. There are a lot of like interesting and talented players in the NBA who did a lot of good things, but you know, if you say who my favorite players to watch ever, that's like another list. But Kobe's one, you know. Kevin Durant would be up there for me. Kevin Durant's probably like right outside of those guys then. It would be cool if he could actually win a ring though without the Warriors. Um, that would be the one thing I kind of wish I root for him to do it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you on basically everything. I would say though, a lot of people forget this because I think a lot of people have like the notion of just like summarizing Jordan into 6 years, right? With 6 championships, because it makes for a better story. Like, oh yeah, let's just ignore the 3 seasons where he lost in the first round. Let's just ignore his Wizards days. I think we should all ignore those Wizard days. Let's be honest here. Um, but yeah, he actually came back in what was it? I think '94, right? That's Hakeem's second championship,
They lost to the
and he
Magic.
lost against the Magic.
Yeah,
So
because
he
he
could
came
have
back
gone
at the end
against,
of the season and everything. Yeah,
yeah, he
I
could
would
have gone against the Dream, but
again.
he,
I don't like if you hear like Jordan fans talk about it. He essentially won 6 straight championships.
yeah,
I don't even like really hold that against him because he came back so late into the season, was not in basketball shape or anything. Like I don't think that should be a knock against him. I don't even think like what he did with the Wizards should really be a knock because he was like 40 years old. Like no matter what, like that's impressive what he did. It should like, these things shouldn't be knocks on these guys. But to pretend like the things did not happen is like hysterical and like some of his moments, like the switching the hands layup or whatever that he did against the Lakers in that first game.
yeah,
The visual from the like side where you see him and you go up and under or whatever, it's like very pretty looking and everything. The problem is that happens so much nowadays where it's like it really is like relatively routine now, but back then it was like, oh my god, I can't believe what he did. He switched his hands to his left hand. Meanwhile, it's like, yeah, like guys all the time go with their offhand and try to make layups and they make unique and crazy shots and like Kyrie Irving, if we just took his highlights, you'd think he was a top 10 player ever too. But you know,
yeah. I
but
feel
yeah,
like what like older heads see that Michael Jordan clip as is probably what older heads thought of like when like Pistol Pete switched hands while dribbling or something like something
they're
so fundamental to the game
yeah,
now that was so crazy
very
back then.
again, yeah, it's again, error. You can't. It's hard to compare errors, right?
Yeah,
Different rules, different things that you have to adapt for and adjust for, and you build for your era and you build for your competition, and it's fun to theorize things like, oh, if the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq played the Warriors had no way to stop Shaq, which I think is true, but like
but
the Warriors also
what
would.
perimeter defense,
But again, at the same time, the Warriors would be getting threes left and right, and it'd be so hard to stop them. Like that Warriors team, I think is the best ever with Kevin Durant. Like
Yeah, for
that
sure.
team was a complete cheat code, and it was your top. Think about it, your top 3 guys who are averaging over 20 a game were very selfless. Like they were very giving to each other and moving the ball and everything. It was move the ball around a lot. And if you ever get into a tough position, just give it to Durant on the high post and let him shoot his fadeaway jump shot off of a hezzy or whatever it is. And it's just like, oh, there you go. Even if we get a bad possession, this guy could bail us out of that. So just like, dude,
Yeah.
that team was just a
Yeah.
complete anomaly, and they were just such a cheat code as a team because they were so good at moving the ball, and they were so good defensively, which people forget all the time because of how they played offensively. Like that was such a dynamic team, and they were so talented, and
Yeah.
all pretty much at their best. Clay,
Yeah,
Curry, Draymond, Kevin Durant. Iguodala was like technically out of his prime, you would say, but like he was playing as good as he ever played as a sixth man off the bench, and that's the best team ever. That I would not argue about. That I think is far and away the answer.
yeah, that's what I think that's what GMs like people that run teams don't understand. That try to copy like the Warrior style. Like let's say like a team like Atlanta, right? Two elite guards and like and Trey. Oh, they always say, "Oh, he plays like Curry," right?
Yeah,
What they don't understand is like they have good defense. Like they don't have like this like mediocre to bad defense. Like like even like in the starting lineup with Kevin with KD Warriors, you had three like elite defenders. Like a lot of people don't see KD as like that type of like defensive talent, but he was really great when he was like pre-injury. And like Draymond might be like the most versatile defender of all time, like at his peak, and Clay like one of the best perimeter defenders of all time too, before
yeah.
injury, of course.
I mean, those three. I mean, I think for that team, right? Hit those three guys, and especially in those seasons, they were playing defense at like the highest level of their careers. And then when you go to like even Curry, Curry's not a great defender, but Curry like tries on the defensive end, and he gets his steals and everything. But he at least competes on the defensive end, especially at that point of his career. And then you have like the big men, whoever it would be. Not also Iguodala when he comes off the bench was also another high end defender. But then they're big men like Bogut and Looney and these guys over the years. They're all just like they just battle their butts off and they're just good defenders and they just do everything the right way and like it was just such a complete team on both ends of the court. And it just again, when you talked about Trae Young being compared to Curry, I to me it's like on the surface it seems to make sense, but what Curry does without the ball in his hands is the most special thing I've ever seen from any player. He probably gets more assist in the game just from his movement off the ball. Like
Yeah,
what he does without the ball in his hands, how he moves around off the screens and everything, and guys will, double and try to trap him and do whatever, or, take him out of the game, and they miss their assignments consistently. And the Warriors end up getting a lot of dunks out of it because, oh, they put two guys jump to Curry, the guy who set the off-ball screens cuts to the hoop, and there you go, it's a dunk. And it's like, all right, like what are you supposed to do? This team is like so unstoppable, and that guy is just an anomaly. Like he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. He's the. I think that's a mark of like a very special. He's like special in a way we've never seen before.
it's just amazing talent, amazing coaching talent, great bench. Like even with just like Iguodala, whoever like the, I think at the time it would be Sasa. I think roughly in those years, I'm pretty sure. And then
Well,
or Bogut. I think Bogut was starting though at that point. Still could be wrong though. And like even like a lot of people forget, but like Sean Livingston, man, he was a bucket, man. He would just go in the mid range, like I think it was the left post,
dude,
and just like shoot it in, like one of the purest like jump shots I've ever seen, man.
bro,
Just like
that guy's
amazing stuff.
mid-range jump shot is one of the most automatic things in NBA history.
Yeah, like
Oh my,
a really unsung hero in those years, I think personally.
dude, he was. Yeah, I think they had a good bench. Again, it was just a complete team. Yeah, Sean Livingston. That's one of those guys that are like. There's so many NBA fans that could hate the Warriors, that could hate a lot of things about what they did and getting Kevin Durant and all this stuff. But there's like nobody who dislikes Sean Livingston. Every single fan loves Sean Livingston. That dude he is such a fun, like he was just such a fun guy doing the same move every time down the court. Never did anything else. His whole game was mid-range fadeaway jump shots and like short mid-range fadeaway jump shots. Not like from like 20 or like 18 feet like Kobe would do. Nah, somewhere in that like 10 to 12 foot range, and he just always made it in. It felt like he's a dude. I love that man a lot. That's a fun player
Yeah,
to watch.
he's like if I were to choose like a favorite player, aside from like the KD, or even I think even Draymond Green, low key, is like a fun player to want, even though his antics are,
Yeah,
sometimes get controversial. Like Sean Livingston was like the guy that I was like, he got 17 minutes this playoff game. Like those are like the best 17 minutes of the whole game for me. It's just like he's a cool dude, man. Like awesome
yeah.
dude.
He was fun to watch for sure.
Um,
There's a bunch of guys like that that are just like really fun. I think it's more. I think more times than not, it's generally like teams that you root for, and then there's like a role player that you really like a lot or whatever. Like I remember like a guy like Trevor Ariza on the Lakers. He was like my favorite like role player in the whole NBA. I was so upset. Like that was one of those like we lost Trevor Ariza, We ended up getting Ron Artest, but in free agency. But I was so upset to lose Trevor Ariza. That was like one of my favorite guys, like on that team. Like he was such a great player. He was such a good role player. And for whatever reason on our team, he was a knockdown shooter from three. And he was already an elite, he was always an elite defender. Everywhere else in his career, he was never that consistent shooting the ball. But the season with us again when the Lakers won that championship against the Magic, he was like a do everything player. He made so many clutch plays, getting steals off of inbound passes, and he was such an unbelievable. That was another one of those guys, like one of my just favorite players to watch.
Yeah, like amazing stuff, man. I know we kind of like drift past it because we talk so much basketball. But what's your what do you like more? Heading in the direction, like, do you like the more passing forward, like NFL? Because I feel like rushing attacks are like gone in the water, except for like the 49ers, of course. Or do you like the more like more spacing, more 3-point shooting NBA route? Like, what do you think is more entertaining for you personally right now?
Okay, well, wait, we're talking about what's more fun to watch? The NFL's like
Yeah,
passing game nowadays, or the
yeah,
NBA's open game?
the
Well,
spacing and like
yep,
shooting
yep.
game, man.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think like so. So here's my take on the NFL. I think the NBA right now is like in a really great spot. So I think football is just a more popular sport, but
Yeah,
basketball's like almost like an easier watch because the games are like shorter and you kind of get into the flow of the action a little bit more. So I think right now basketball is actually maybe a little bit more fun to watch. Football's just got more like hype to it. So like the storylines are just better in the NFL, it feels like right now. Um I think the NFL actually though is as kind I think one of the things we're seeing with a lot of the best teams in the league, even though they're not running it like often, all the they're every team is trying so hard to stop teams from throwing it over their heads, like deep downfield. That we're seeing the best teams move the ball methodically down the field, and a lot of times that their run games are like a huge part of that. Like we're seeing like even like the Chiefs. The Chiefs may rank in the bottom of the league in terms of yards per game, but they do a really good job of designing runs to get those pick me up yards. Like they'll never go negative on their run plays. Like they'll get two, they'll get three. And because the way teams play them, they'll have a lot of games where they'll pop a lot of runs for like 10 yards and get a first down. The NFL's almost like turning into a little bit more closer to like where it's at its best, where there's some balance involved. I think the more wide open game is fun and more fun to watch. But when it's just like throw, 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 it kind of loses it a little bit. But we're starting to
yeah,
see the NFL nowadays because I think all of the best teams, there is that like balance of like they do still want to run the football at least a good amount. And then when it comes to their clutch moments, they're allowing their best quarterbacks to make plays. And I think that's like the most hyped thing you could have. Because we're seeing these quarterbacks are so good nowadays. Football like basketball, I think football's in a great spot too. I think the quarterback play in the NFL maybe because of the rules, but excuse me. But
yeah, okay, man.
just in general with football, look at the top 10, 15 quarterbacks nowadays. And then I ask anyone, go back to 15 years ago, look up the top 10 or 15 quarterbacks from back then. Just look up the stats, like top 10 and 15 in yards thrown and touchdowns or whatever. Don't compare the stats. Just look at the list of guys. When you go back in the day, if you go to like mid 2000s, you'll see Peyton, you'll see Brady, you'll see like even Brett Favre, even though he's towards the end of his career. And then there's like quite a big drop off in terms of talent and like high end play from that quarterback position. Nowadays, like a guy like Derek Carr, I think he's like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But where would you rank him? He's probably like a top 16 guy, right? Like
Yeah,
at
like
best,
average.
his best season's probably like eighth in the league. His like worst season's like 16. So he's like somewhere in that 10 to 16 range relatively consistently. Kirk Cousins is another guy like that. Like me, my cousins and I joke. Kirk Cousins is the best 12th best quarterback in the NFL in NFL history. He's
Yeah, like
consistently like around there. His best seasons like last season, probably top 10. But he's generally like right outside the top 10. And he's almost always like the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, it feels like. But the quarterback play as a whole is so good in the NFL nowadays. Like these guys are so like they're so talented throwing the ball. You look at the top 5 guys. I think especially the top 3 right now: Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. Not in that order, obviously. Mahomes is one.
Yeah.
But you look at those 3 guys, especially. They are they are 3 of like the best I think we've ever seen as like a trio in the league. And then we have guys like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert who I think they're both like supreme, like super talented guys and amazing. I hate that 2 of them are in my division, but uh,
Yeah, that's
but
just the roll of the dice, man.
to be
In
fair,
team
the
play.
AFC's quarterback situation's like kind of nuts, especially when you look down the line. Because you have like Josh Allen in the East. You go to like the South, it's Trevor Lawrence. You go to the North, you have Lamar Jackson, who we didn't mention. He's also like he's his own animal and his own uniqueness, but he's gotten much better at throwing the ball over the last few years. He's just his problem's just been being healthy the last couple seasons.
Yeah, with like stomach viruses and like
Yeah,
ankle
and
tweaks.
his contract situation doesn't help. But you talk about like
Yeah.
him and Burrow are in the same division. Then you talk about like Herbert and Mahomes are in the same division. And if Russell Wilson comes back to his old self with Sean Payton, you're
Well,
gonna
which
have
he will,
3 of
right?
them.
Top 10, top 5. I mean, top 5 quarterback next season, right?
Russell Wilson. Oh, he's winning MVP
Yeah.
and winning the Super Bowl, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Obviously. No, but what I'm saying is like if Russell Wilson gets back to like his old self, because all of Russell Wilson's career, he's a Pro Bowl level quarterback and one of the like five best quarterbacks in the NFL any season, right?
Yeah.
His like worst seasons, he's been like top 7 or 8, but like outside of last season, because even his
Yeah.
rookie season, he was unbelievable. Um, you're talking about like one division will have 3 guys who are potentially like top 5 quarterbacks any season, top 10 in this season. Like the AFC is just loaded in quarterbacks. The NFC is where it falls off. Where
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts,
there's
it's literally like Jalen Hurts is like the one guy we all trust, and then we go to your boy Dak.
maybe some people have golf top 10. I'm like, man, stop playing with yourself, man. Like,
Goff had a great
golf was,
season last year, though.
yeah, but
Um,
I think his team, like, he's a quarterback where he won't elevate you, but he won't drop you down. He's like a high
yeah,
floor, low ceiling.
yeah.
That's
I
good.
mean, the NFC is. I mean, I think that's what the. I think outside of like, and we'll see how. Again, I want to say outside of Hurts, but then again, Hurts. This is like his first like amazing season.
Yeah, like
So
no consistency. We'll see how it pans out. Maybe I doubt teams will figure out the O line because they're
Eagles, that's the
phenomenal.
thing, right? The Eagles O line is unbelievable. Again, but if you look at like the NFC quarterbacks, like it's Jalen Hurts, Dak, not in order, but Jalen Hurts is one. After that, not in order.
Yeah,
Dak, Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, Brady's not
Kirk,
there anymore. Who?
maybe Kirk Cousins
Kirk
4.
Cousins. Okay, no, I'm talking about like the consistent guys, right? Like
Yeah, Kirk is pretty
you're
consistent.
talking about those are your like top 5 quarterbacks in the conference. Outside of Jalen Hurts, none of them even sniffed the top 5, and probably none
Yeah,
of the rest of them sniffed like the top 10.
I
Like
think Dak is 10, but or 8 or so
I'm
mostly.
not I've never been a Dak guy. Um,
Yeah, he's been
personally,
consistent. I think really
yeah,
good.
I think my thing with Dak always in his career, when things are perfect around him, he's amazing. With anything, it feels like if one guy gets injured or if one receiver has a bad game or gets hurt, he doesn't elevate anyone. He doesn't have that like elevation like ability in my opinion that you know he's good. He's like a real again, we're talking about like we're saying Dak Prescott's maybe like in the top 10
Like
somewhere
yeah,
definitely
like
in the top like 12, 13ish range, give or take whatever, a couple spots, right?
yeah.
Like that's a really good quarterback at that range. But when we're comparing him to guys in like the top 5 or what those guys can do on the field, he doesn't have that. Like those guys in the top 5, 6 range, those guys have some like special quality to them. They bring something to the table that's very unique or you know or very like skillful that other guys can't. Like Dak doesn't seem to elevate people. And we'll see how he does. Again, Cowboys consistently put together a pretty good team. You
Yeah,
know,
I like. I like our chances. Hopefully, we can make it to the championship game in like 30 years. It is 30 years, I think. Actually, like
It's
on the day,
we'll see
basically.
with them. I like at this point. I no offense to before I met you or whatever. I always root for a couple of things to happen. I root for the Cowboys
Yeah,
to never get to the NFC Championship game again.
of
Forget
course. Yeah.
we'll forget anything. I always root for the Browns to have a bad season. I love watching them do bad. Oh, Deshaun Watson's another guy, by the way. If he gets back to his old self too, God, that's another division that could have like 3 top 10 guys. And then it's like how many guys could actually be in the top 10? 20? It's like no. But yeah, again, but I always root for the Browns to do bad. There's nothing the Browns did or anything. It's just when they started going 0-16, 1-15, like those 3 straight seasons, I got enjoyment out of watching their futility. And I always loved when they were 0-10 in those seasons, you always get the article that comes out. How the Browns can still make the playoffs. And they need
uh,
they need 30 games to go exactly a certain way. They need 12 ties. They need a bunch of losses from specific teams. They can't have one team they can have one team lose a certain amount of games, but they have to lose to a specific opponent. Those are my favorite articles to ever read on the Browns. So, and they're always with
yeah,
the team that was in that situation up until the Baker years where they started to turn it around. And
yeah.
don't know, I'm not a
Even
Baker
then, they're still.
fan.
Even then, they didn't really hit their potential. I think because Baker he kind of fell off after the playoff run where even during the game he fell off a lot. Cause a lot of people forget that they're destroying them like 21-0 it seems like, and then they make it like a one possession game, and mostly because of Baker being like bad in that game in the second half.
No,
Just but
he played well in the second half of that game. He was actually playing really well. Mahomes got hurt, so there's no offensive pressure from
oh
the Chiefs
oh
side
no,
of
I meant
things.
in the Steelers game. Like
Oh,
he played
oh,
in the
that one.
Steelers
Oh,
second,
that.
and
No,
that's
he
why
played.
it was really close.
Oh
It
yeah,
was gonna be
no.
like a dog walk, but
He played. Yeah, he played great in that playoff game before they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs. He was
yeah,
really good in that game. There's no oh Baker sucks in that game. No, that game he played amazing. But Baker's I think Baker's almost a bigger issue of if things aren't perfect around him, and he's had some people say, oh, his receivers are not great. Yeah, but also your running game is so unbelievable. You only throw it to wide open players over the middle of the field.
yeah,
You get a running game like that with those 2 backs that they've had, you're gonna have way bigger windows to throw to. And it's not because of your skill. It's almost like Jalen Hurts. He'll have easier windows, but a lot of it has to do with his running ability.
yeah,
Lamar Jackson's in a similar spot, right? Their running ability helps their run games a lot, but also helps the fact that teams have to worry about them running. They end up getting way bigger windows to throw to because of that. But it's their skill set. Baker got that with just his 2 running backs who could both run for 1,000 yards in a season, almost together, I believe. I think Kareem Hunt was really close one season, and Nick
yeah.
Chubb is one of the top 5.
Phenomenal.
He's He's a monster. So you had these guys in
Yeah,
your backfield. You had a good tight end. You had serviceable receivers. They weren't bad, but again, they weren't great. Again, the NFL, the receiver position is really stacked. So, um, but they had a good enough group with the style of play that they played with. So, yeah, I'm not a Baker guy though. I think he's horrible.
yeah. I don't know if you saw the article, but Bruce Arians said that Baker was like a higher prospect for him than I think Trevor Lawrence. I think maybe I'm getting it wrong. Josh
Yeah,
Allen
that's
maybe
not.
like a
Yeah,
top 10 guy. Or like a soon to be top 10 guy in Trevor's case. I'm like, man, what are you talking about, old man? Like, good thing you retired from coaching. I'm like, man, but
I
I
here's a better. Then the quarterbacks this season: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. Uh, Again, maybe I think the guys this season in the draft, they all. I mean, Bryce Young's only just. Hold on a second. One sec.
oh yeah, 2023 draft. Yeah, you're correct. I could have sworn there was somebody that's in the league, but
Apologies for that.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, I think like Bryce Young is probably like the perfect prospect outside of the fact that he's like 5'9".
Yeah,
He's like 5'11" written down, but he's like actually like 5'9" apparently. Like he's
he
small.
might be the first NFL quarterback to wear heels during the game. I'm just joking though.
Hopefully he could. I mean, maybe he grows. Who knows? Even though it's not going to happen. But yeah, he's like so like Bryce Young was so fun to watch. Like that dude is unbelievable. But it's just really difficult when you're like that small. Again, it's like almost like the Kyler Murray thing. Kyler Murray's always good in the beginning of the season, but once those hits start racking up over the year, he struggles towards the end. So
Yeah,
with Bryce Young, we'll see how he does. He doesn't run as much, but we'll see how he performs. And he's on the Panthers, so you know
they have
it's.
a good O line.
Well, we'll see
They have
how
a
they
good O
do.
line.
I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure. I root for him because his play was deserving of the first pick, but it's just such a difficult league to succeed in. So we'll see for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think we're about to end it here, but before we do, what's your Super Bowl prediction? Uh, it can include the Broncos. It doesn't have to, but Broncos, of course, are gonna make it.
Well, we know the Broncos are making it. I don't know. I don't know if I could do a Super Bowl prediction. I think playoff prediction's a little bit easier. Hold on. Let me just refresh my memory of the NFC team. Okay, I want to say the
So you got the
49ers.
Eagles, and that's it.
Actually, no,
Nah.
I don't think the Eagles are. The only reason I don't think the Eagles are going to go back only has to do with the fact of no team outside of like a team Brady plays on or seems to get back to the Super Bowl after they lose. So I don't think they make it. If I had to make an unbiased prediction, man, it's really tough to say the Chiefs don't get back there. And I would imagine I want to say the 49ers, but I just don't know their quarterback situation. It's tough. We may just get a surprise. Maybe the Cowboys make it. This might be your team's year. Again, if there's any
Exactly.
year, in my opinion, if there's any year for them to like make noise and get to the Super Bowl, I think this might be the best year. Again, the NFC as a whole is not like great.
There's just
Again,
like two good teams,
you're
probably.
saying that the best teams are the Eagles. Fine, that's tough because that's in your division. The
Yeah.
Vikings are definitely going to fall off a bit this season. They won so many one possession games last year that usually comes back to haunt you. The Saints, I think the Saints probably win that division. I want to say they win the division. I don't know. And then the 49ers, again, the 49ers issue is just that quarterback spot. We just do not
I
know.
I think Lions can maybe make it. Maybe they can win a playoff game, like the second time in like 70 years.
The Lions,
Yeah.
I know Ben would love that. But he's not a Lions fan. He just for some reason picks their players on his fantasy teams, and he ends up what's it called? So he ends up rooting for them extra hard. And I think last season he was so upset when they missed the playoffs.
They should they should have been there, man, but they fumbled
They
one of
fumbled
the
a little bit.
last game.
Not the last game, the game before that, where they lost.
Yeah,
They lost to like the Seahawks or something, and that kind of ruined it for them.
yeah. Where there's like 100 points scored, it seemed like. Man, that was a great game.
Yeah. And then they ended up beating the Packers in the final week to kick them out of the playoffs. And I'll do playoff prediction though. The Bills all right, so division winners, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Chiefs. We'll say those four teams win. I think that's just gonna repeat. The teams who make the playoffs out of the wild card, Dolphins definitely miss it. I'm not a. I think the Dolphins are bad. I don't think the Jets make the playoffs either. Regardless of Aaron Rodgers, I think the Ravens definitely make the playoffs next season. Um, I think the Broncos do make the playoffs next season. I genuinely, outside of the fact that fine, I'm a fan. I really believe. I really mean this. I think last season had more to do with the fact that our coach was maybe the worst coaching hire ever, and less to do with Russell Wilson overall. Even though Russell Wilson's play was not great, there was a lot of they struggled to just manage the game, which is unfortunate. But I do think they
Yeah,
actually do make the playoffs next season. And then the Chargers, I think I think the Chargers are a very high end team. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think that's 7. 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, it's
4,
7. I've been
5,
I've been
6.
counting them.
That's 7. And then the NFC Eagle Eagles Cowboys make the playoffs. I think the Giants miss. I think the Vikings win the division. So that's 3. I think the Saints win the division. That's 4. 49ers win the division. I think the Rams come back and they win their division and they make the wild card this season. And then the 7th team, oh god.
It's probably the Seahawks or the Lions.
I don't think the Seahawks are going to do as good this season. The Giants probably have like the best coach remaining on that list, but Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones.
And Saquon is older too.
The 40 and the Commanders, they're not a real. They don't feel like a real team. I have no idea. The NFC is hard because I feel like whoever makes that last spot,
Could be anybody.
It's probably going to be like a 7-9, like a 7-10 team, or an 8-9, or an 8-9 team. Like the Buccaneers won the division at 8-9. Man, I genuinely don't know. I think the Bears this season are going to make some noise. I think
Yeah.
they'll push for the playoffs. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. I think the Bears push for it. Justin Fields in his 3rd season. We'll see how he progresses, and hopefully he has an opportunity to prove himself with his arm, because he really, like, if you watched him in college, he really wasn't like this kind of running quarterback the way they're using him. He was just a
Yeah.
guy who threw the ball from the pocket and was able to throw deep ball dimes and everything. I think he'll be. I think that's my like surprise team to make the playoffs. I said the Jaguars last season with my friends. I was like, they're going to win the division. I'm going to say the Bears. I mean, make the playoffs. I think most people are picking the Lions to win that division. Honestly, I think the Vikings miss. I think the Buccaneers miss from the teams who made it. I think the Seahawks and the Giants miss. So generally, like a few teams missed the playoffs that made it the season before. The AFC is just so difficult because I could totally see the Browns or the Steelers making the playoffs. If the Patriots made it, I wouldn't be completely shocked. If the AFC South, I don't think any of these teams make it. If the Raiders, I definitely don't think make it. I don't even know what's going on with Jimmy G's situation. Yeah, like anyone in the AFC North can make it. Anyone in the AFC East could make it. I don't think the Jets do, but they definitely could with Aaron Rodgers. And then 3 out of the 4 in the AFC West can definitely make it. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
But that's like,
We do preseason prediction. So with the the prediction site, I don't know if you've seen it in the server. So maybe you can post them in here when it's closer to football season. It'd be pretty fun to see. Man, I did them and I was horrible, man, from like last year. Let me pull them up real quick.
I'll definitely post it, and then we could talk shit about it at the end of the year about how off I was.
Yeah, like I had the Raiders
like,
going 11-6, man. Like, oh, this bad stuff.
Oh, you guys do records and everything. I'll put the teams first, and then once we get closer to the season, I'll post.
I'm gonna DM you the old predictions I had from last year, just so that you can laugh at me, man.
Toast and Ramble. Is it underway? Do you guys just post it under the sports channel?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, prediction.
But yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to chat, man. Thank you for.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. Thank you for being like the first episode of this. Hopefully, it does well. Hopefully, we can partner if you're still interested in that. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's just been fun.
Yeah, it's been really cool so far, dude. I'm excited for Jeopardy. Hopefully, we can get this going on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully Saturday.
Yeah, right. Definitely for sure, man. And yeah, we definitely want to link up on that, and we'll see any other future projects we may want to do together. Again, I think your server has a really cool like concept and idea, man. So it would be cool to like potentially like do some partnering up with you and doing some unique things, because I think there's a lot of things we want to do in the future. As you know, we don't just want to do just
Draft.
We're draft league focused. We're going to be draft league focused, but we want to try to do unique versions of draft league also in the future. So this is this is a lot of fun, dude. It was
And
really
also really excited to play on the low tier draft. Like the first time I'm doing something like this, so it should be fun, man.
oh no, we didn't do the reveals yet, so you don't know if you made it. Wink.
Oh man, hopefully I make it, man. Hopefully I make it. Let's say that.
No, okay, I can. You obviously know because I think I already told you, but you definitely made that. Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Again, this should be a fun season, so I'm excited to
Did
have
I make
you
it
forward.
because
Yeah, hopefully you have a
did
lot of
I?
fun in our league, man.
Yeah, same here, man. Did I just make it because I was the only one that sent 3 replacement? Nah, nah. But yeah, like I said, man, it was awesome. Hopefully we can do one in the future, like in another week. Maybe bringing your brother too. That could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bringing like the other members in here to meet each other, like in call. That'd be
Yeah,
fun stuff.
we'll definitely see, dude.
But yeah, man, this is fine. This is fun, Byron, man, and awesome first whatever, man. Like
Yeah,
legit,
definitely
super
first
cool.
time chatting with you in an extended period over call. Again, over messaging is a little bit slow, and this was nice.
This is awesome, man. So have a good one, and hopefully, like I said, talk to you soon. Man.
All right, have a good one, dude.